In the previous episode, in their attempt to intercept the Commonwealth's train, Daryl and the team tampered with the track switch. No matter how hard the soldiers tried, they couldn't move it. Upon inspection, he discovered that the tracks were obstructed by some trees. He waved his hand towards the cab to indicate that there was a problem. The driver, understanding the situation, prepared to report it to the next station. However, he quickly realized that the radio had no signal. He fiddled with it for a moment, attempting to make contact once again. This was Carol's plan. First, sabotage their radio system, then take control of the driver to prevent the disclosure of their whereabouts. Then she and Daryl would take care of the soldiers, which would save Connie and allow the pilot to take them to their destination. Moving along the train, they soon heard voices. A soldier, seemingly on patrol, noticed a group of zombies approaching the back of the train. He ordered 2 others to handle them while he checked the front. Daryl quickly ducked under the train because the soldiers were about to descend from their side, and they couldn't act until they knew the exact number of soldiers. Fortunately, the patrol didn't notice them. The soldier drew his long knife and cut down the nearest zombie. Then he put his weapon away and continued towards the front of the car. 5 minutes later, one of the soldiers sent to kill the zombies was very efficient and the only female among them. Just as she finished her report, the sound of a rifle being loaded sounded behind her. Instantly tense, she dared not move. It's Rosita and Gabriel. They took the woman's weapon and walkie-talkie. The patrolling soldier also arrived at the front of the vehicle and tried to lift the switch, but the situation was exactly the same as before and it was impossible to turn it. The situation was perplexing. Despite clearing the tracks of tree branches, the switch still wouldn't budge. After peeling away the dried grass on top of the switch, the soldier looked down and discovered the deliberate sabotage. Realizing the danger, the soldier called for others to gather. At the rear of the train, the soldiers were about to inquire about the situation when Daryl opened fire. They immediately went on high alert as it became apparent that the enemy had infiltrated. Without hesitation, they charged forward. Daryl attempted to open the train door but quickly faced heavy gunfire, forcing him to take cover. 2 soldiers, one in front and one behind, surrounded Daryl and Carol, trapped in the middle. They knew this couldn't continue. Fortunately, Maggie intervened, taking out one of the soldiers and relieving the pressure. Seizing the opportunity, Daryl charged forward. The remaining soldier, realizing the odds were against him, grabbed Connie as a hostage. He flung Connie aside and sprinted towards the train. Daryl didn't chase the soldiers, but went up to check Connie's condition, and only followed after seeing that she was fine. The soldier had already left on his motorbike. Carol fired a few shots but missed. They couldn't let him escape. If he relayed the message, rescuing others would become much more difficult. Daryl, on a motorcycle, quickly caught up. As the soldier saw he approaching, he veered into a thicket. Daryl immediately drifted to a stop and kicked on the gas to catch up. It wasn't long before he saw the motorbike hit a tree. Through the thick smoke, Daryl spotted the soldier attempting to flee. Accelerating, Daryl chased after him, heedless of the tree trunks in his way. Knowing the consequences if the soldier escaped, Daryl wasn't one to show mercy. Initially resistant, Wilson changed his tune upon seeing the lifeless Nelson, and then he squatted down honestly. Wilson pleaded, saying, "My family is near the 22nd station up ahead. If the soldiers find out I've helped you, my fate will be the same as your friends." Rosita said sadly, "They took my children. You said you had a family, you should know how we feel." Wilson fell silent. In truth, he was a kind-hearted person who had only taken this job because he knew how to operate trains. After a moment of contemplation, he informed them that there was a map on the train, located in the control room. Maggie wasted no time and, with Wilson in tow, set off to find the map. When Daryl returned, Connie greeted him with a smile, relieved to see him unharmed. While Daryl was talking to Connie, Maggie had planned to take Wilson to find the map, but to her surprise, Wilson secretly untied the rope and found an iron rod. Wilson didn't intend to harm anyone. He wanted to commit suicide because he was afraid that helping them would put his family in danger. His earlier statement that there was a map on the train was a lie. Carol quickly comforted Wilson, saying that he only needed to reveal the whereabouts of their people, and they would make sure he suffered minor injuries to make it look like a lucky escape. They never expected Wilson to be so determined. In order to protect his family from the Commonwealth's investigation, he resolutely chose to end his life. They weren't in the best of moods anymore. Although Wilson's death was not directly caused by them, it was still a consequence of their actions. Moreover, the worst part was that they had no idea where to go next to rescue their companions. The delayed arrival of the train at Station 22 would surely raise suspicions, leaving them directionless. Rosita proposed a solution: to repair the train's radio and impersonate soldiers to establish contact with Station 22. This might be their only chance to obtain useful information. Negan and the others were taken to a remote location to perform hard labor. The cold and hunger made it unbearable.
Missed 3 guards.
Ezekiel looked up, and indeed, there were only 3 soldiers guarding them. Kelly's message was clear. Ezekiel, being composed, knew that there was a high probability of being shot if they attempted to escape. Negan, preoccupied with the whereabouts of his wife, had no interest in working. He was constantly worried. Negan tries to find out where his wife is, but the soldier hits him in the face before he can finish his sentence. Everyone's attention turned towards the commotion. 3 workers saw an opportunity and dropped their tools to flee. Seeing others running, Kelly was tempted to join them, but Ezekiel firmly held her back, advising her not to act impulsively. No sooner had he spoken, the 3 workers were gunned down. It was fortunate they didn't follow, or they would have met the same fate. Everyone present realized that escaping was not as easy as it seemed. They had no choice but to work obediently and wait for the right moment. And so, they toiled until evening. Finally, it was time to eat, but all they received was a meager bowl of soup. The conditions were too harsh, and many had lost their spirit. Kelly, for instance, merely sniffed at the food and set it aside. Ezekiel could see that she was reaching her breaking point. At that moment, Negan approached Ezekiel. He proposed working together to gather information and escape from this place. However, Ezekiel sighed and said, "There's a reason I've avoided you all these years. You know what you are, ironing people's faces, threatening women to marry you, and slaughtering my people. I'll never forget these damn things." Negan didn't evade the issue and solemnly replied, "You're right about everything you said. I want to tell you that I haven't forgotten. Being stuck in a place like this is a fitting punishment for me, but this place isn't suitable for you or anyone else, including my wife and my unborn child." Hearing this, Ezekiel's heart softened slightly. Negan continued, "Listen, old friend, I'm here as someone about to become a father and as someone who has been a leader. We must set aside our past grievances and cooperate. For the sake of everyone." They eventually reached an agreement to gather information and escape together. Before they could exchange more words, the soldiers urged them to resume working. 3 hours later, the sky had turned completely dark. The men ordered everyone to load up their stuff and get ready to head to Campsite 22. As for where this Camp 22 is, no one cares. They just want to get a good night's sleep. Meanwhile, Daryl and the others had successfully repaired the radio. One of the soldiers they killed was a woman, so Rosita posed as her to contact Site 22. After waiting for a few seconds without a response, it became clear that this plan was not going to work. They're finally getting some hope. However, the person on the other end of the radio didn't suspect Rosita's identity and patiently spoke. "From your current location, go through the woods and then follow a rugged mountain trail. You'll come across a highway heading east. Keep going until you find a community called Banana Settlement. That's our rest stop 22. Once you're there, you'll see our comrades on patrol. I apologize for not sending anyone to pick you up right now. We have a convoy coming to our location for rest and recovery, and we can't afford to be complacent. It's the governor's orders," the person on the radio explained. The convoy the guy on the radio was talking about was the car that was transporting Ezekiel and the others. And they're even more shocked that this is the Alexandria safe zone with 22 written on the door. It turned out that this had been Pamela's plan all along. She had instructed Lance to find communities along the railway and develop them into rest stops for the Commonwealth. This way, wherever the railway reached, it would become the Commonwealth's territory. Daryl and the others were infuriated upon hearing this. It turned out that the place they had been searching for was their own home. The next day, Negan and the rest were promptly taken out to work. Today's workplace is by the railway near the Alexandria safe zone, where all the workers are located. The guards are also much tighter. Yesterday, Negan and Ezekiel had made an agreement to gather information and escape. Kelly looked around, realizing no one was paying attention to her, and immediately started using sign language to communicate. Princess and Ezekiel are bulldozing, and they're looking around. That's when they noticed a familiar figure. Wasn't that man Tyler? The one who had caused trouble at the party. It seemed that anyone who offended Pamela either ended up dead or brought here. Princess believed that Tyler must be courageous to have done what he did. They could try to persuade him to join forces and escape together. Ezekiel thinks about it and thinks it makes perfect sense. After a while, Negan arrived at the water supply area, where they had agreed to gather the collected information and report it to him. Having learned about the guard situation and combining it with his own observations, Negan quickly took out a piece of paper from his pocket and drew an escape route based on the gathered intelligence. If the timing was right, there was a good chance they could escape. Ezekiel also pretended to come for a drink and followed the plan to receive the map from Negan and pass it on to the others for examination, but then Negan saw his wife being scolded and doing manual labor. Negan could not hear Ezekiel's shouts. The soldier didn't say anything else. He understood that Negan was a responsible man, but the other soldier came up to him and was not so polite. Negan was also angry and started to fight, but was immediately slapped to the ground by the soldier. Annie couldn't bear to watch and rushed to help but was pushed down by the soldier. Annie, being fierce, threw a punch back, but in the end, she was dragged away by the soldier. Negan was pinned down and unable to move. Daryl and Carol witnessed everything through their binoculars. After a night of rushing, they had also arrived at Alexandria's safe zone and witnessed the scene. They quickly informed Maggie about what they had seen. All their missing comrades were accounted for except for the children. It was likely that they were being hidden within the Alexandria safe zone community. Pamela, this cunning woman, had never intended to fulfill her promise of helping them rebuild their community and return it to them. With numerous guards in Alexandria's safe zone now, forcing their way in was not feasible. They quickly thought of using the sewer system as an entry point and divided into two groups. Daryl and Connie would enter from the windmill side, while Carol and Maggie's group would enter from the dungeon side. Rosita wanted to join them, concerned about the children. However, Carol rejected her offer, stating that she and Gabriel had the most accurate marksmanship and could provide cover from the outside. Reluctantly, Rosita agreed, but she made it clear that if they didn't come out by the end of the night, she would go into search for them. They set off, hoping to find the children successfully. During lunchtime, Negan and Ezekiel sat in front of Tyler, preparing to persuade him to collaborate. With both groups joining forces, they would have a significant advantage, but Tyler responded by saying that they talked as if they hadn't tried before. Everyone who attempted to escape had died, so they should take action on their own, while Ezekiel is still trying to talk him down. Two soldiers walk up behind Negan,